He said you guys were in a relationship and that you were the mastermind behind all of this, and it was your idea because you wanted $1 million life insurance policy. If you could take over George's job, and that's something you guys would be set to be together. As that was the whole deal. Well, I can tell you that's a lie. I'm going to do it by myself. Everybody loved George. To the public, she was the picture of heartbreak, a devoted wife shattered by tragedy, crying out for justice, and when her husband was killed on his own front porch, it seemed like the work of a cold-blooded stranger. But what no one knew was that the woman begging for answers already had them. At around 10:30 p.m., police would respond to a 911 call from a woman saying her husband had just been shot outside their home. But what they would discover was a tragic scene. George Young had been shot and killed. As police scrambled for answers, they uncovered a devastating truth. The one behind it all was the same person who shared his bed, his wife, mother to his 3 sons. A plot fueled by lust, greed, and $1 million life insurance policy. What was more disturbing was what happened next. In fact, these stories are closely similar to the story I covered last weekend. Do you remember a woman who paid $1,000 to her husband's friend to kill him, but they turned against her? Mungo received a down payment for the gun to have me killed from Lulu. That's when I said, you know what, I think we have enough. Let's take this to the police now. If you have not watched it, I'll leave the link at the end of this video. This is the life and death of George Young. 43-year-old George DeAndre Young was born in 1974 in South Carolina. He graduated from Conway High School in Conway, South Carolina in 1992. As a young man, he developed a reputation for being dependable and hardworking, eventually taking on part-time work as a security guard with Strickland Security Company. In late 1995, George married his high school sweetheart, Tia Banks Young. The couple later settled in Gwinnett County in Georgia, where they built a steady life rooted in love, commitment, and hard work. They raised 3 boys together and made their home in the quiet suburban streets of Beaufort. Neighbors often saw George outside laughing and playing with his sons, a hands-on father devoted to family. To many, they seemed like a close-knit, loving family chasing the American dream. He was doing armed security for a, high-profile celebrity. The gig protecting rapper Lil Yachty wasn't George's first assignment of the day. George built a strong career in the security industry, quickly rising through the ranks with his work ethic and determination. He took on high-pressure roles, guarding high-profile clients, working at locations like Lenox Mall and various celebrity events while employed with Ackerman Security. Eventually, he channeled that experience into launching his own small security firm, a move that reflected both his ambition and desire to provide more for his family. Ivy Barnhill says 12-hour workdays were the norm for her big brother. My brother worked a lot. He worked 70 hours a week. He worked really hard to provide for his family. He often worked 70-hour weeks, juggling long shifts and business responsibilities, all to ensure his wife and children never went without. Friends described George as fiercely loyal, generous to a fault, and deeply devoted to people he loved. He was the kind of man who'd literally give you the shirt off his back. Around the neighborhood, his presence was a constant. Neighbors recalled how everybody loved George and how it was rare, almost impossible, to find someone with a bad word to say about him. But inside the home, no one saw what was really happening. On the night of November 16, 2017, George returned home after a long security shift, this time working an event for rapper Lil Yachty's clothing line release in Atlanta. It was just after 11:23 p.m. when he pulled into his driveway and walked up to the front door of the home he shared with his wife and children. He inserted his key into the lock, likely exhausted but glad to be home. But what happened next, no one could have predicted. The first gunshot rang out, sharp, sudden, and deadly. Seconds later, a second shot followed. George never made it through the door. His keys were still lodged in the lock as he collapsed backward, fatally wounded. He died right there on his own front steps, just feet from the warmth and safety he thought he was returning to. But the horror didn't end at the doorstep. It was just beginning. It wasn't until 11:31 p.m., roughly 8 minutes after the gunshots, Tia Young, George's wife, finally called 911. She told the dispatcher she had heard 2 loud bangs outside but requested that responders arrive without sirens, saying she didn't want to wake the children. When paramedics and police arrived, the scene they found was both tragic and deeply unsettling. He got shot from the side. His keys were actually in the door. When he wished I could, George was lying motionless on the front steps, his feet facing the door he never got to open. His phone, wallet, and keyring were all still on him. Nothing had been taken. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle, no robbery. At first, I thought it was gunshots, but I wasn't sure what it was. I don't know if it was firecrackers. Tia Young also shared what she had heard that night. But I heard 2 loud gunshots. At first, I thought it was gunshots, but I wasn't sure what it was. I don't know if it was firecrackers. Investigators immediately started to try to piece together the situation. First, they turned to his workplace, wondering if an incident from a security job had followed him home. But after speaking with his colleagues, they found no evidence of any altercations that night. With no leads there, detectives shifted their focus to the closest to George, his wife Tia, and her brother Harvey Timothy Lee. And that's when the inconsistencies started to surface. As they examined their statements, subtle inconsistencies began to emerge. One detail stood out. I'll draw your memories and things that you told me. Maybe you'll tell me something you didn't remember the first time. Right? So just throughout that night, I know that you said you had gone or you were in bed. Were you like in a deep sleep or were you just kind of sleeping or what was going on next? As far as I remember, deep sleep. Okay. And then what happened? Oh, I heard 2 loud noises. I wasn't sure if it was firecrackers or what it was. I sat up on my bed, looked around. My baby boy was still asleep. If I remember correct, I think I went to Tim's room, but he wasn't there. His light was on. Then I remember he was downstairs on the computer or a laptop and the table. I don't think I went to my mom's room right away. I think I went downstairs to where he was. And I think as I got almost down to the bottom step, he was coming up. And he asked me, did I hear it? I said, yeah, I heard it. He said, it sounded like, I said, I'm not sure I saw firecrackers or what it was, because some people in our neighborhood that I knew, they periodically do firecrackers for whatever reason. And, so, I think at that point he said he was going to go get his gun and go to his room, go down and check, see. I remember him opening the door, shutting it pretty quick, telling me to call 911. And that's why he told you that it was George was out there. Okay. And I called 911. The lady, told us the whole thing. What's your emergency? And then I told her, that my husband was, here, gunshot. And my brother opened the door and said that it was my husband. She wanted to know, I think that's where is what she needed to know. And yeah, that's the first thing she asked. I told her I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it out there. So she said, is there anybody can look that can? I said, my brother. So he looked, told me what he thought he saw. So I relayed it to her. And then she wanted me to do CPR. I don't know CPR, first of all. And if I did, I don't think I've been able to gather myself to do it. I don't know. Could have it on his. Tia initially claimed she thought the gun